Hey everybody, and welcome back. We are doing the second installation on gunmetal on this series of parts. We just got done doing the Mighty Mouse catch can not too long ago. Now it's time to move on to the sound, which, man, sound and power. We're going to be doing the headers next. So we're going to be going step by step on how to install the Kooks. Technically a Kooks header manufactured by Kooks, but it's actually a CSP or Complete Street Performance header design. It's supposed to be the best fitment in the industry, so we will find that out. It is a 2-inch header with a 3-inch collector. We are doing the non-catted connecting pipes, so that is going to go along with that. They pretty much provide everything in the kit, and you know, there's a couple things also to remember whenever you're about to do this, things you're going to have to require and need to do so. So I'm going to flip this around. Things to make sure that you have with you. Obviously here is everything that the headers come with. You got your headers, gaskets, clamps. These really cool right here. They actually have the new header bolts with locking stage 8, I believe it's called stage 8 locking tabs, so that the bolts don't back out on you. Some thermal heat wrap, I love that. One goes over the steering column, and I believe that goes over one of the wiring harnesses. You are going to have to go to some auto parts store and go ahead and get yourself some new spark plugs, especially if you are tuning the car, which if you're putting the headers you should be. But these are NGK spark plugs, just NGK 6510, obviously times 8. But yep, going on, does have the O2 extensions as well as the more clamps here and whatnot. So going to be doing this here. The connecting pipes are inside there. Going to be going step by step. Another thing also, you know, I give props to Eric over at Florida High Performance. These guys recommended this right here, this deep penetrating oil to spray all of the bolts on the, you know, where the near the cats, all of the O2 sensors, just to kind of free them up a little bit. This stuff is supposed to work wonders. So I went ahead and got some. I already actually, you can probably see underneath there some dripping going on. I've already kind of pre-sprayed everything underneath the car. So, you know, go ahead and get yourself a can of this. I don't know, it's probably $6-8, whatever it is, but we're going to find out how good this really works. From what I understand, it works pretty well. And that way we can go ahead and get started. But I think we're going to go ahead and start at the top of the motor. I am going to be following Kooks' instructions for the most part, as I almost die from stepping on things. I'm going to be following step by step from Kooks. There's a few odds and ends that I'm going to do that I've seen that do help with this process, and maybe try out something else over here on this coolant reservoir too that, you know, yeah, you can drain it, you can do this, you can remove it, you can keep it connected and move it to the side. I'm with Eric over at Florida High Performance as well. I'm going to get everything out of my way as much as possible, but the more room I have, the better I'm going to be, you know, in this process. So, but I think what's going to happen next here is I am going to remove this reservoir. I'm going to clamp each hose right there with these hose clamps. To keep them from, you know, pretty much just capping the lines. And then I'm going to use these caps to cap the reservoir from dumping crap all over the place. So try to get that, you know, and then set to the side. And then once I'm done, just reinstall it and bolt it down. And that's one different thing that I'm going to do versus what everybody else is saying to do. So try that out, and we'll see how it works, and I'll let you know if it does work. But we'll go on to the first step. Alright folks, obviously first step is safety. So make sure you have yourself a pair of clear goggles and or safety glasses. Protect your hands the best you can. And the other thing is, whenever you're doing any type of modifications, messing around in your electrical or anything like that, disconnect your battery. Kooks recommends disconnecting negative and positive. I only did the negative. I've only ever done the negative whenever it comes to this kind of stuff, so and it's done fine. But they do recommend disconnecting both, so full disclaimer there. So again, safety, so make sure you have the car jacked up right. I have it on some ramps in the back. I have it on blocks in the front. She ain't going nowhere. I had this up the entire time doing the catch can. It is giving me plenty of clearance underneath, and I do have to get up on a step stool and or a block to kind of get to the top of stuff back there, which I'm not really going to need so much on this. I'm more just on the sides, side access, and then of course underneath the car. So just make sure you're safe, and you know, make sure there's somebody around while you're working on your car. Alright guys, first thing you have to do is you have to take off your engine covers, obviously one on each side. The first thing you have to do in order to get that off there is take off these star point sockets right here, screws, and that is a T27, and you got one in the back, you got one right up here below the oil fill cap. So take both those out, take the cap off, and then you have to remove this PCV hose right here in order to, you know, access that and remove it. Alright, another thing it does say whenever you're trying to disconnect these PCV hoses right here, take a flathead screwdriver and pretty much push in and then pull. Just use that flathead, just kind of push in on that PCV valve or the PCV hose, and then just pull up. And out she comes. Then you can pull the valve cover right off. Well, engine cover. If it was loosened all the way, which it's not. It's great, by the way. Alright, one thing you definitely want to try to do is, it doesn't say in the instructions, but you want to get this wiring harness kind of moved out the way. Definitely in the way of this valve cover, engine cover, what have you. Wow. Okay guys, I wanted to show you this because nowhere in the instructions does it say anything about this, but I'm going to tell you it is really hard to get this engine cover off. So what I ended up doing was I disconnected everything over here, everything that was attached via wire. So even all of the coils, I disconnected all of them. So this wiring harness, coil wiring harness, all this entire thing can move out of the way of this this cover, because it was pretty much strapping it down. And there's one right here also held onto this bracket, and it was just not letting go. So, but once I got that wiring harness kind of pliable, I got her out of there. But even with that, it was still pretty tightly in there. But yeah, this. There's that. So both engine covers are off. Going to the next step. Alright, next step, it says to go ahead and disconnect all the spark plug wires and get them set off to the side. So we'll start here on the passenger side. Okay guys, so trying to get these spark plug wires out with this coolant reservoir in the way, I am going ahead and skipping the spark plug wires and moving straight to this to try to see if my idea worked, and sure as hell it did. So this right here is one of the coolant lines that feeds into here. I pretty much clamped it off with a coolant clamp, and I capped it with a cap. Like I said, that cap I showed you before. Did the same thing back here, capped this line. I plugged that line with another one, and then I also capped the reservoir right here, so no more spilled out. Did I get some? Yep, some fell down there. Yeah, a little bit. But as you can see, most of the coolant is still in the reservoir. So, whether it matters or not, I just didn't want to make a huge mess, so I just capped everything off. I'm going to get this thing out of my way. There's a 10mm right here that you have to loosen that attaches right there. There's also a little wiring connector clamp right there that holds onto the back of the reservoir that you just pry off. And then once you do so, this thing just comes right out. And then you can set this to the side. And then a whole lot of room opens up for you to work. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go with spark plugs now. Spark plugs and spark plug wires. I'm going to go ahead and also jump ahead a little bit here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the dipstick, which you can see the bolt right there that holds it in. It looks like a Allen head. I'm not sure size, but it looks like an Allen that holds it in there. And from what I understand, at the very bottom of this, it is pretty much, it just plugs in. There is no actual clamp on the bottom. It just pushes in and pushes out into the oil pan down there. And then also, I've also read that this bracket right here is really in your way when you're starting to install these headers. So bolt down there, try to get in there and get this bracket out of your way. It's just doing nothing but just getting in your way. So just to, a few other things to get out your way before you get started. Okay, spark plug wires are out, and yeah, with the heat shields and stuff in the way, the dipstick did not want to come out. It's unseated, and I left the bolt laying right there, and as you can see, it's unbolted, but it's probably gonna have to come out when the manifolds come out. So, but spark plug wires are out on the side. Gonna go ahead and go to the driver's side. All right, go ahead and do the driver's side. As you can see, there's way more room to work on this side. Holy shit. Okay. Okay, got the spark plugs out. I went ahead and jumped forward also, and what I did was this right here is a heat shield that goes down inside down here. It's 10mm bolts. There is 1, 2, well, there's a total of 4, 5, I can't count apparently. There's 5, but that's the bottom section that goes down towards the cat. And this is the top section that literally sits, and give or take, it sits right there. Just take the bolts out, pull both pieces through, and that way when we start taking these things out of there, yet again, more room to work. Gonna do the driver's side next. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get these other heat shield bolts off. Hey guys, I wanted to show you something else that I did that kind of helped me get some more room to work in here, which again, this passenger side is the most ridiculous, right? So what I ended up doing is I took these big zip strips that I have, don't know how long I've had these laying around, but I took these coolant lines that I had set to the side right here, and I zip tied them to the tunnel brace right here, to where it opened up everything over here, because it was literally pressing it like up against right here, and it was so hard to move. And then I did the same thing over here to where I can gain access to pretty much everything and get it all out of my way and just shove to the side. And it doesn't hurt anything. They're just coolant hoses. So as soon as you're done, you just snip the zip strips away and then retighten everything back up. But just another thing that I've found that helped me so far get into things and get my whole hands in there, because I got big hands, so it does help. Alright, next step for the undercarriage here, we're moving forward and we are going to disconnect the O2 sensors from both exhaust pipes. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take off this catalytic converter cross brace right here, a little bit in the way of getting off that front O2, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that cross brace. It's 13mm. Alright, now that the O2s are out, I have both of them out on each side. I'm going to go ahead and start disconnecting the cats from the main piping right here, or my X pipe on the Kooks system. And we're going to start working our way through all that, and then prepping for removal of the manifolds. We gotta get rid of those. We gotta loosen up these bolts right here. There's 4 on each side of the pipes here, so you gotta make sure you get all of those disconnected. So we pull the manifolds off, and then right up there is the steering shaft bolt that we're gonna have to take out and then move the steering shaft out of the way, so that way the headers will clear that area. Okay, so I disconnected the cats, secondary and primary from up here. 15 millimeter, pretty much to get off there. Like I said, once you disconnect the O2s, it makes it a lot easier to get to, especially that bolt right there. But I have removed both cats on both sides. I kind of jumped ahead. You don't have to do it 100% in order, whether you take them out first or not. But next is going to come the skid plate. This whole piece right here, in order to get those headers in, this whole plate does need to come off. Series of 15 millimeter, 13 millimeter, 10 millimeter bolts. There's quite a few of them, but you know, just take them out there, drop it down, set it forward of the car, or whatever you have to do. That way you can gain more access up here for the install. And we'll get to the next step. Okay, here's the last bolt, and the manifold is free. Go ahead and put it right over here. She came right out, as you can see. So she's out of there, pulled right through the driver's side. So she's in hand, right there. And there's the cats for both sides. We're going to go ahead and set that there for now. And we're going to go ahead and work on the passenger side real fast. Hey guys, I wanted to do another tech tip real quick. That's going to help you once you start installing your headers actually onto the car. Obviously, you got your header, and before the header and the head, you have a gasket in between, right? You can get the graphite gaskets to where they're a little bit easier for this next instruction that I'm about to say, but if you are using the standard style 3-layer metal gaskets, then you're going to have to take another step in order to cut these things in order to help you out. So shout out to Eric at Florida High Performance, by the way, for reminding me of this, because I was like, man, I've done a lot of exhaust before, but this, I was like, man, that's one thing I forgot to do that's going to make my life a lot easier. So check this out. So right here on your gaskets, notch the outside parts of your gasket. I took an angle grinder right here, and I put a cutting wheel on there, and I pretty much clamped it down and just notched a section on both sides. And the one thing I want to reiterate is make sure you line these up on your headers first, because if you cut the wrong side, your bolts won't line up, your gaskets won't line up. So make sure you mark which side is going to go on these headers on the downward, on the downside of the header. The downside is pretty much with this off the car. It's, on the car would be a little bit easier to understand, but what you're going to do is put your most outside bolts in the header when you're bolting it on the actual car. So it's going to hang there by the 2 outside bolts very loosely, and then it gives you enough room to just slide that gasket, and it's going to hang on the outside of these 2 hook sections you've made in your gasket and just hold it in place for you. So then once it's hanging there, it's loose, right? Then you're going to take your 3 inner bolts, start working them in, then you can go ahead and tighten it down a little bit, and then of course wait for your torquing. But just a tech, another tech tip for these metal gaskets. Again, these 3-layer gaskets that Kooks did come with. I think your stock ones are the same way. Just make sure, remember, do the downside cut leave the upside of it and double check it, recheck before you make your cut. And of course, make sure you wear eye pro whenever you're cutting and using a metal cutting wheel. It takes literally less than 2 minutes to make this happen. So, but it is going to make your life a lot easier once you start installing. So, shout out to Eric again at Florida High Performance for giving me that tech tip. Appreciate it. Okay, we are now under the car. I have installed both headers, driver's side right here, and passenger side. And I will say that even though these are made by Kooks, and I am doing this without a lift, I mean, I'm pretty decently off the ground. It was very, very tight as far as clearance goes. I didn't think I was going to have enough. It did push up against here to be able to slide up in there pretty hard on this heat shield right here, but I was able to get it up and through there. Now I will say the only thing I removed on this set of headers, and these are 2-inch Kooks, but designed by CSP, I'll reiterate that again, the only thing I took off was the heat shield on the starter. And that was, and I did, it's kind of dangling right there, I'm pretty sure. I did disconnect or unhook the knock sensor that was up there. It was sticking out a little bit up there. I didn't want to break that off just in case, because it was a tight fit getting up through there, but you know, there's a lot of other headers that you have to disconnect. This engine mount pedestal right here, I didn't have to do that. I did not have to take off the starter. You know, I've got everything out of the way up top there to kind of help out, so it really did help. Obviously I am doing this by myself, so I ended up just like on the other side. I took the rearmost O2 right here and I did put it in the bung right there on the base of the header on the collector right here. On both sides I used that pretty much to hang the header until I got up top, and then I grabbed it myself, and then I, you know, fed the bolts in there and then just tightened it all up. So these are going to come back out. I mean, they're barely in there. They were just there to hang it for just a sec. There is an extension on this O2 so that we can put it here and get it hooked in. Other issue that I have run into that I do have, like I said before, I have a Corsa single X pipe, and I do have the connecting pipes from Kooks or CSP to connect to here, and they do not connect. It literally is the same diameter right here, so they're not sliding in there. So now that I've got the headers hung, I'm going to go ahead and start buttoning up everything else underneath here, getting the cross brace on, and get the starter shield back on, connect the knock sensor, and just start tightening some stuff up down here, and then move towards the top and keep on going. Another thing I wanted to show you guys is with this header install, I went to O'Reilly's and I got some more of this heat wrap. It's a hook and loop heat wrap. It's probably about $42 for about 3 feet of it, but there is a wiring harness right here, and you can see how close that wiring harness is to the header now. Compared to the stock exhaust, it really was not that close, but now it is, you know, a ½ inch, and that's going to heat up real bad, and they do say that those do melt. So I highly recommend going and getting this from O'Reilly's. I also took some of the extra hook and loop right here, and I wrapped a brake line because it is relatively close as well. And I wrapped that brake line that goes down past the header as well. So highly recommend doing that, guys, just because you don't want anything heating up too much. And it is, I mean, literally ½ inch to 1 inch away from this exhaust pipe, especially that brake line right there. Very, very close. So want to make it as safe as possible. Don't want to lose anything here, and, you know, cause damage down the road. But just another thing that I did. Hey everybody, I want to give you an update on Gunmetal here. We are on day, I don't even know. I'm taking my time with this. I'm not in any rush. It's not my daily driver. So Just making sure that I take my time, follow the instructions without a hitch, double check my work, and so on and so forth. But let me go ahead and get you down here. Pretty much, I've got everything installed outside of the pipe underneath, which I will go over here in just a minute. I do not have the coolant reservoir put back in yet. Obviously, the intake is not back on, which that is going to be an afterward type thing. But really, it's just the piping and cleaning up the engine bay and making sure everything's connected. But let me show you where I'm at here, and I want to show you why this is so awesome. Shout out to Andrew Zurich over at CSP or Complete Street Performance. Designed an amazing header. I have the Kooks manufactured but designed by CSP, and I'm going to make sure I reiterate that part. That just was awesome. It's perfect, man. Everything that they say about it in their description is 100% fact, and I'll show you why. So driver side, perfect. Stock plug wires fit. Didn't have to buy another $130, $150 worth of spark plug wires or whatever. That, you know, I'm sure every brand costs different, but you know, these have been proven. The GM stock wires have proven to be less resistant than the aftermarket stuff. So I wanted to reuse those, and it, you know, it saved me $100 and something bucks. So, you know, put those right back in after after the install. Plugs are in, wires are on. Driver side went in without a hitch. I mean, literally, at Eric over at Florida High Performance literally said it best. I have trouble this thing just falling out. You know, I use the rear O2 to hold the header in place because I'm a single man job doing this. Until I got up here to the top, and then I lined up my gasket with my tech tip at Eric. Again, shout out to him on what to do. And then, you know, I just pretty much lined up the bolts and torqued them down. Passenger side, yet again, I was very, very stressed out on doing this side, just like everybody else is, usually when they buy headers for their Camaro. Guys, you don't have to stress about this. You just need to make sure that your car is high enough to get the clearance to get the header up into the engine bay. That is the biggest thing that matters here. As far as putting these in here, and these are 2-inch, not 1 7/8, went in flawlessly. I took off the starter heat shield and I unplugged the knock sensor to make sure I didn't break it off while installing the header. But literally once I got it past the floor, because it did kind of get stuck towards the floor, but that's just because of clearance issues. But once, and it was getting stuck on the rear firewall or bottom side heat shield down there that I don't think you can really see, but it's underneath the car trying to get up in the engine bay, and it did get stuck between that and the floor. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, not going in there. And then I just gave it a push, kind of tapped it up, and it went right up in here. Didn't hit anything, it just kind of, and then once it got past that point, it was just, and it just fell in place. And again, it almost was like the driver's side and almost wanted to fall back out. So I did the same thing, used the rear O2 and held the header in place while I got up here and aligned the bolts and the gasket. Got them in here and started tightening everything up and buttoning everything up. But again, stock wires with stock heat shields on them, clearing the tubes by a long shot, not worried about any type of heat or any issues on these plug wires or anything of that nature. So, you know, save you a couple $100 or $100 there, whatever. And again, the only thing else I'm going to show you is underneath the car of what I ran into. Alright, so I'm going to be underneath the car here and I'm going to show you some things that, you know, this is the risk you run doing it the way I did it. You know, you can tell everybody all day long what you got, whatever it is, but as any header company will tell you, outside of having the stock system, if any aftermarket system you have coming into this and trying to match headers to it, potential going to have fitment issues, or they may not line up or whatever. The connecting pipes I'm going to be installing here shortly to my Corsa single X pipe NPP, and that's where I ran into my issue. I'm going to show you right now. So the link pipes, or the connecting pipes that go to the headers up here, right? Obviously those fit no problem with the circle clamps there, but I did run into them actually fitting on the Corsa single X pipe piping right here. As you can see, it now is going inside each other, but before I took it to an exhaust shop, it was the same diameter as each other, and it was pretty much, there was about 1 inch or more of overlap, and I could not get them to go inside each other, and they were just the same diameter. So I had to go get the connecting pipes stretched out to 3 inch, so that way that the Corsa exhaust system piping from the X pipe coming off of there will fit inside, and then I can clamp it down. So that's what I'm going to be doing next, is putting on this piping and hopefully buttoning everything back up to the Corsa system here, and then hopefully I get the intake on and then give it a first startup. So I'm going to go ahead and get these pipes put on, and then I will be back with you shortly. Hey everybody, this is fast forwarded. I've already done the dyno tuning and everything from LMR, but this is the big gulp intake, the coolant expansion tank, the header install, as well as a Mighty Mouse catch can and E85 flex fuel kit, which I will go over in the next video. So I wanted to show you what it looks like all said and done, but next enjoy the first cold start on the new headers.
Lights work.
Yeah.